I recently did a Q&A sort of subscriber provided questions, and I forgot one, or it was somehow omitted from the stack of paper on that coffee table. And it was, are you going for 1,000,000 miles on the Legend? Well, as of today, let's see if I can shade that, 589,808. The answer to that question is have no doubt in my mind this car is capable of 1,000,000 miles, but I don't think in my lifetime it'll get there. I have too many other vehicles that I'm spreading my mileage across, and I don't drive as much anymore. I used to put 45 to 50,000 miles a year on this car, and I just don't. My driving habits are much more normal now, which is weird to say. That being said, this car is going to get some heavy-duty maintenance currently. There were a few things noted by the dealership in Knoxville, Tennessee, when I had the oil change just prior to the Legend meet, and that was these items down here, ball joints. And I don't want to risk anything suspension related, because that is a recipe for disaster on a car this old with this many miles. So, but along the road, while I'm doing that, there's a few other things that I decided to address, and they're in kind of random order here. The radiator in this car, I'll show you, I guess, real quick. It's not leaking or anything, but it's more a time-based concern on my part. It was last changed about 320,000 miles ago, I think. Sorry for the wind. And it's kind of, you know, Honda radiators tend to go a little bit brown in the top tank like this, because it is a plastic piece and is subject to only so many, you know, heating and cooling cycles over its lifetime before it kind of deteriorates. So I have a replacement radiator that's going in. That was the main reason why I wanted to add that to the mix here. But while we're at it, we'll address a few other things related to the cooling system. We'll do the upper and lower hoses while we're at it, thermostat, obviously the OEM radiator cap, and kind of let these guys do a once over on the car for any other things that are noted. Additionally, as far as mileage accrual, this car will see some distance here in the next few weeks once this work is completed. I'm going to be going to the Japanese Classic Car Show in Long Beach with this car. So in case you're out there on October 7th, I will see you there, and the car will roll 590,000 on the way there. Here's all the stuff that I'm leaving with them. I sourced my own parts this time around just because it feels like that's kind of what takes all the time when the car sits here, is when they have to wait on parts items. So in this case, I went ahead and sourced. There's no OEM radiator available, so I went with the Denso. This is the suspension parts, the hoses, 3 gallons of Type 2 blue coolant. There's an AC Delco alternator. We'll do some NGK spark plugs, and I think everything's in here. I'll kind of let them advise me if anything else is recommended at the time, but I mostly just want this car fit to at least get to 600,000 miles in the next year or two, and then beyond that, who knows. Just picking up the Legend from maintenance, and I noticed they have a high mileage club record here. Look at my name. I'm clearly not the front runner because somebody beats me here with an 06 Accord, but some pretty good numbers here. Awesome. Just getting the Legend back from this fairly decent sized list of maintenance items, and all went well. The parts that I supplied were indeed the right ones, and let's see if I can get my hood up here. And so everything worked out. The radiator was replaced, upper and lower hoses, everything else that I said on the list there. And clean bill of health. So this car, the next adventure for this car anyway, is for the Japanese Classic Car Show in Long Beach. So you'll see some upcoming video coverage of that once I get back from California. In fact, the car will roll 590,000 on the way there, a week from this Friday. So I think at this point I should be pretty good to go all the way till 600K. Had an alignment done because of the suspension work that was performed, and the car tracks perfectly straight and true. I do have a brand new set of Michelin tires at home ready to go on this car, so that is the next step of the project. Okay, I completed my wheel reinstall, and now the satisfying thing about this is I have the full set of Michelin Energy 215, 55, 16 tires, in addition to the full-size brand new matching spare, which is good peace of mind. The spare tire I was running before was about 11 or 12 years old, so even though it is just for occasional use, it's nice to keep that one pretty fresh. I went ahead and reserved my worst condition wheel for the spare. This one looks like it's been set down on its face at one point and has a little curb rash here and there. So that one will go inside the trunk, and then the car is otherwise ready to go for its next big journey. All set. I do still also carry a spare clutch here. These other parts I think there's a main relay in there, fire extinguisher, some coolant, miscellaneous suspension stuff, and an alternator. Legend people know you never can be too prepared. This audio system, by the way, is very vintage. I added that subwoofer when I was 21 or 22, and it's also already disconnected, but whatever. We'll take that back to stock at some later date. Here's a quick recap on where we are today. So in a recent video, I talked about how having too many cars sometimes encourages you to put your priorities in weird places, and I've been sort of neglecting for the last few years putting the needed emphasis on the cars that I do intend to keep forever in the interest of restoring project cars. So this year I'm playing super duper catch up on getting the high mileage Acura Legend back up to speed, because that is a car that I've had for 20 years and I plan to have 20 plus more. So I'll walk you through a little bit about kind of what's been done in recent years and then everything that took place this year to get that car ready for the 600K mile mark and beyond. So spreadsheet analysis as we do. The interesting thing about that Legend, so I'm at 589,836 miles, but if you look as far back as 2019, so basically for the last 4 years, all I've really done is oil changes and batteries, hood struts, just simple, easy stuff. But then this year, I really wanted to get that car sort of dialed in for the long haul, because it was driving around on an old timing belt. The suspension had some deferred maintenance needs. The radiator was turning brown and really gross. So all of that has now been addressed this year. In fact, I've dropped about $6,000 in 2023 on getting that car good to go. Some of this took place before I took the 4,000 mile trip to Kentucky and back for the National Acura Legend meet. Other items, in fact, this oil change was done in Tennessee on the way to the meet. And then everything else here has been parts and service completed after getting home. At this point, I feel pretty comfortable that I've addressed the main things that need to be done to get this car safely to 600,000 miles. And at that point, we'll reassess and decide if there are other things that need to be taken care of. But my annual sort of mileage accumulation on that car is typically between 4,000 and 6,000 a year. So at that rate, I don't predict that I'm gonna need a heck of a lot more for a little while yet. And anyway, that's the summary. So interestingly enough, over the course of the car's entire lifespan, it's had $45,000 in maintenance spent. And if you go way back here, I've shown this on a prior video, but this goes way back. We're now in the 400,000 mile range. Now we're down in the 3s. Now we're down in the 2s. And this goes on and on and on. I have every receipt for that car. It's never had a rebuild, never had head gaskets, never had really anything other than timing belts and water pumps, and then just regular routine stuff. So the spreadsheet itself now totals, where am I on this thing? 295 lines. If you if you want a entertaining novel to read, you can look at the Carfax on this car. It's about a dozen pages or more. But hey, it's worth it. I would do it over again. And the $45,000 that it's cost to keep this car on the road for the last 30 years, I think is a small price to pay for the driving enjoyment and the reward of having a car that was over-engineered for its time and is capable. I'm confident this car would do easily another 600,000 miles. Here's what the records are now looking like for the Legend Coupe. I had to a while back extend into a second volume for the paperwork, so this car has a lot of history. The true test is seeing how this thing drives with new tires. So I'm doing a test drive. And it is smooth. I love it. Nothing like a set of fresh Michelin tires. Just running an errand here at FedEx. I did notice that with the installation of the new rear control arm, it almost feels like the car sits a little higher than it used to, which I wouldn't be surprised. People used to say this car had what they would lovingly refer to as the 500,000 mile drop, which was really just a sagging suspension. So a lot better ride height now, and ready for a long distance drive to the Japanese Classic Car Show in Long Beach in a couple weeks.